Less is more. I know you've heard the saying, and you might even believe that it's true. But do you live your life like it's true? For a long time, I didn't live that way. To me, more was more and more was better. I was so driven to reach every title, to get the pay raise, to do whatever it took to be successful. But what's successful? For me, success was tied to titles and money and earning, even though the theme of less is more had been in the background of my life long before I was a wife or a mom or a business owner. It just took me a while to see the signs and finally decide that it was time for me to redefine success in a way that fit me, that fit my life, and worked for my family. Hey, it's Suzanne, and this is the Daily 15. Today we're talking about the lies about success, how we can redefine success to fit our values and our life, the one we actually want, and why doing less might be what you really need. If you feel overloaded and disappointed by the hustle and grind, and you're ready and wondering if something simple and better is really the way to enjoy your life without burning out, and you're wondering if it's possible, this episode is for you. So take a deep breath, grab your coffee, and let's get started. The reality is we're bombarded with images of successful women and working moms all over social media. And if we're honest, it can leave us feeling a little less than. But what we sometimes miss is really figuring out what success means for us. Not the version for that mom on social media or that mom that you see in the grocery store that seems to have it all together, or even what the world is telling us that success is, or even how your mom or your grandmother would define it. All of these influence how we see and view success and how we define it. And redefining success for yourself is a process. Sometimes you just have to look for the clues. Understanding that less really is more first occurred to me in elementary school. I had a writing assignment. Now, I loved to make up stories and use my imagination, so I was really excited about this assignment. The teacher said that we could write whatever we wanted to, but it had to be at least 500 words. So I got to work, crafting this amazing story about a little girl on an adventure in the woods with her puppy. Sounds perfect, right? And when I finished writing it, I was so pleased with the story I had created. Until I counted the words. It was less than 500 words. Now listen, I was a little girl that was highly driven by grades. And I absolutely had to get an A on this assignment. But I didn't have 500 words. And worse, I didn't want to add any more words. And I definitely didn't want to add them just because I was required to. I wrote what I wanted to say, and I loved it. But it didn't meet the success standard my teacher had set. But because I had to achieve the A, I rewrote it to get to that 500 word count, and I turned it in, even though I didn't like the final version. There, in the 5th grade, was the first moment of me working towards someone else's definition of success. I really wish I had learned the lesson in that moment, but sometimes we need age, experience, and a lot more repetitions to get the message. Now, don't get me wrong. There are times that it is necessary to work towards someone else's definition of success. In school, where there's assignments and specific criteria to get the grades, it also happens at work. Bosses have deadlines and project benchmarks we need to accomplish. But we also have settings where we get to decide what the outcome is, and we get to choose what success looks like. But sometimes we forget that we have the choice. Now, while I didn't fully understand all of that in the 5th grade, the seeds of this idea of less can be more and better began to grow. As women, we often internalize what success looks like from the women around us as we're growing up. We definitely inherit ideas of what success is or isn't. For many women, including myself, it looked like doing more or doing it all. I could never sit still or stop moving, and I was always multitasking. And I thought I was getting so much accomplished. And the more that I checked off the to-do list and got that dopamine hit, it made me feel like I was better. I was really driven to achieve everything from good grades to college degrees to promotions at work. I didn't want to let anyone down. I wanted to be the dependable one, the one that people counted on because they knew I'd always show up and get it done. But let's be real, that was impossible, even though I kept pushing, and it was exhausting. When we constantly chase those external definitions of success, we're often left feeling disappointed, even when we achieve it. It isn't as fulfilling as we thought it would be. And most of the time, it just leaves us stuck on the hamster wheel, chasing the next thing. But there's also physical effects to this unsustainable pace. It leads so many women to exhaustion, brain fog, decision fatigue, and overwhelm. It's why so many women, when they finally take a break, they actually get physically sick. Have you ever worked so hard to prepare for a vacation and then you get to where you're going, to this beautiful place on the beach, and you're sick? That's why. We're burning so much energy and we're not caring for ourselves or our bodies. And all that pushing just leaves us not feeling good and not enjoying when we get the break. But we continue to push our minds and our bodies to the brink and wonder why so many women around us are burning out. But how do we figure out what success looks like in our own lives? How do we get to the version of success that leaves us feeling fulfilled and joyful, with plenty of energy for what matters most? Today, I'm going to share with you 3 questions that you can ask yourself to help you redefine success based on your life and what you want it to be. So question number 1, what matters most to me? This is where you get to decide what your priorities are. Is it your work, your family, your health, or your faith? These are the things of most importance in your life. Now remember, everything can't be a priority, or nothing is really a priority. You will probably end up with a list of 3 to 5 priorities in your life. I simply want you to write them down and then sit with them for a bit. I find it helpful when working through this process with a client to write them down as they come. Whatever pops into your head, write it down. No editing here. And then once you have your 3 to 5 priorities, you can spend a little more time deciding what order they go in, from number 1 being the most important, and then down the line from there. Give yourself a few hours or a few days to think through this, but don't procrastinate, because having your priorities locked in will help you move forward more quickly. Now, question number 2. What are my values? Values are the ideals that you live by and how you treat other people. This part of the process speaks to your character. Things like honesty, kindness, your work ethic will be included in this list. Again, you're going to write down whatever comes to mind without editing. Then you can review the list and finalize it later. And one important note about this question. These values will already be present in you, but they aren't perfect. So this isn't just an aspirational list of what you want your values to be, as much as it's a guidepost along your journey. You're creating the guiding principles that you're going to live by. And question number 3, how do I want to be known? This question is all about identity. It's the definition of who you are. And it answers the real questions. What do people say about me? How do others describe me? And how do I want to show up in the world? So question number 3 takes a bit more time and intention, but it's a critical piece to help you redefine success in your own life. I think we would all agree that knowing who you are is the key to living your life with purpose and on purpose. And that's what I call true success. As you write out these answers, you'll also be creating your own decision filter. Now the decisions you need to make, both big and small, will run through these 3 questions and the definitions that you've established. Now the decisions you make will run through what's most important to you, what are your values, who you are, and how you want to be known. Having these answers will help you avoid overwhelm and overload. It's really your first step to building a life you love that you don't actually need a break from. Now, doesn't that sound amazing? Just like you, I went through this process as I was figuring out what success looked like for me as a working mom, running a business, and wanting to show up for my son and my husband as the best version of myself. I was done with giving them my sloppy seconds. They deserve better, and I want to give them better. In this season of my life, success looks like building a coaching business where I get to help real women find rhythms in their day-to-day. It's also about making time for my own health, physically, mentally, and spiritually. And I want peace and calm in my days. No more running myself ragged. I want to show up rested and ready for whatever comes each day. And I want so much laughter, more fun and joy, and less stress and overwhelm is how I'm defining success in this season. Here's the best part about this framework. It gives you flexibility based on the current season you're in. Priorities can and will shift. Maybe it's a season where you're caring for an aging parent, or there's a really important project at work that's consuming your time. Keep these questions handy and go back to them as you need to, as you grow, as your seasons change, and make adjustments accordingly. You get to redefine success as often as needed and whenever you choose. In the next episode, I'll be sharing how I changed my rhythms for this summer and redefined success for this current season. What does success look like for you? Maybe it's time for reflection and reevaluation. You have inherited ideas of success. And we have all been influenced by what society and social media determine to be successful. But we don't have to accept that. We get to choose. You might just find some things that can be left behind. Maybe your new definition of success is about doing less and finding that it's more than you hoped for. So take your daily 15 to begin answering these 3 questions. Thanks for joining me today. Just a reminder, you can now hear the Daily 15 twice a week with new episodes dropping on Tuesday and Thursday. You can see results without a complete life overhaul. You just need 15 minutes a day to get started. As you're listening today, maybe you're feeling stuck. If that's you, your next step is my Refresh and Reset call. In this free 30-minute coaching session, we'll discuss where you're stuck, get you started on the 3 questions, and your next step. No fluff, no sales pitch. This is an actual coaching call with me to get you unstuck and on your way to real change. I'll drop the scheduling link in the show notes below. Success really can look like doing less. And you can be your best while doing less. You're building new habits and creating rhythms in your real life. Together, we're finding sustainable rhythms and we're creating margin for what matters most.